I think we can all agree that no matter when it is, the release of Skull and Bones is going to be a complete flop. It could be their new release date in 2023, or they can even delay it again and we still have the exact same expectation. What was originally promised all the way back in 2017 is not what's going to be delivered whenever it is released. The trailers that have been revealed and the gameplay that has been pushed to the public hasn't been received well from the fanbase. And that got me thinking, is there any changes that Ubisoft can implement which would actually bring a bit more hype to the game? And that's where this video comes in. But before we do get into the changes that would hopefully lead to Skull and Bones being successful, if you enjoy the content here and want to see a bit more from me, then make sure that you do hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We upload multiple times every single week, and if you want to stay up to date with Skull and Bones as well as every other Ubisoft title, then make sure that you are following the channel. And getting back into the video, Skull and Bones was originally announced back in 2017 and was scheduled for a release in 2018. Since then, it was pushed back and then again and then pushed back again, and we've most recently had another delay which pushes it back to 2023. But after that first initial delay, with the gameplay and the trailers that were revealed after that, fans became less and less hyped. Ubisoft had no vision for the game and they kept on changing gameplay mechanics, so what was originally advertised isn't what we currently have. And this has led to there being a lot of outrage from those that have been following the game since its first reveal, which is, of course, me. So in this video, we are going to be going through some of the changes where if Ubisoft did make them, it gives it a bit more of a chance for it to be slightly more successful. I'm not saying game of the year, but better than what it currently is. So firstly, a massive fan request is to add pirate combat. Right now, it's advertised as a pirate game, but you don't really play as a pirate. You're playing as a pirate which controls a pirate ship, and that's where the majority of the gameplay is. You can leave your ship at certain designated outposts, but that's about it. And on these outposts, you can't fight other players, even though it is a PvP game mode. You can't pull out your sword or pull out your pistol and fight them, because the fighting itself is only when you're on your pirate ship and they're on their pirate ship. And even then, it's still extremely limited. Yes, you can fire cannons, and yes, there's a variety of weapons as well as armor that you can customize your pirate ship, but when it comes to onboarding another person's ship, it's a cinematic. There's no actual gameplay. This is extremely annoying to everyone that was getting hyped for this game originally back in 2017. And even to this day, despite this game not being so much of a pirate game, but you being a pirate controlling a pirate ship and that's the gameplay, still Ubisoft advertise it with the odds being stacked against you as you eventually become an infamous pirate. But that's an infamous pirate without ever getting into a sword fight with another pirate. The second big change that really needs to happen is to open a world so that you can explore. Now, yes, you can explore, but just like everything else, it's extremely limited. As you sail the open sea, you will come across outposts, settlements, and forts, with there also being additional islands on top. But you cannot go to every single one of them. You cannot dock your ship on every single one of them, and if you can't dock your ship, you can't explore them. This is another reason why this doesn't really seem like a pirate game. They just added a pirate on top because they saw it as an opportunity for you to customize your pirate, which does also mean that they can bring on microtransactions, because in every way in which you would need a playable character, there's nothing there to support it apart from customization itself. With these outposts, settlements, and forts, these are pretty much the only areas in which you can explore. And whilst playing this game, you will have activities such as a treasure hunt where you'll be gifted a treasure map either by looting or maybe it just being a reward from Ubisoft themselves. Whatever it is, you have a treasure map and you need to find a treasure. It will only be on the designated islands which you are allowed to go, these being outposts, settlements, and forts. Not so much the other islands which you will see when you are sailing around. And this doesn't seem like as big of a deal, but there's a huge part of people which play open world games, believe it or not, for the sole purpose of being able to explore. Not to mention that this also limits certain gameplay features, especially with treasure maps. At some point, because there is a very limited amount of islands in which you can explore with settlements, forts, and outposts, it does mean that it's not going to take too long, especially because there isn't a huge number of these, so it won't take too long until you start finding treasure maps, which leads you to the treasure that you've already found before. Whereas if it was opened up to every island, it gives a lot more possibility for you to find something which you haven't yet explored. The only reason I can see why these islands aren't explorable, it doesn't even need to have any additional content on there. It could just be some cool stuff that people can just explore, go and find, go and see for themselves. The only reason I can believe why this hasn't happened is because Ubisoft hasn't got round to it, or they haven't had time. The third change that really should happen, because it's weird seeing this within the trailer, is to add animations to gather resources. As this being an open world game designed by Ubisoft, you can craft items, and for you to craft those items, you need to have the correct resources. This will involve you getting into conflict with other pirate ships where you'll sink them and collect their loot, as well as you can also find some of these resources on different types of islands. But you might be questioning, how is that possible when there's only a select amount of islands in which you can explore? And that is a very good question. You still can't go on these islands, which means you sell your pirate ship up beside these islands, and if there's resources close, you can then, I guess, hold down a button or spam a button. I'm really not sure of the mechanic itself, but it does show it within the trailer where you're just lined up beside one of these islands and you have UI popping up on the screen to say +1, +2 to say that you are collecting this item. And it is extremely weird. It does not look like something from a AAA game company. If anything, it looks like something that belongs on a mobile game. By opening up the islands for players to explore, it makes sense for there also to be a few animations where someone bends down to pick something up, or if it's the case of a tree, for you to have an axe and then hit that tree to eventually build up the amount of wood you have. Whatever it is, it doesn't need to be fancy, it just needs to look better than what we currently have and what's being revealed. Another reason to let players explore the different islands so that they can just pick up the different items and resources that they want to pick up, rather than it being the way that it currently is. The fourth change that players would like to see is the ability to leave your ship whenever. We did briefly mention this before, but the only way that you can leave your ship is if you do go and dock your ship at one of the settlements, outposts, or forts. You can't sail off into the ocean and then just leave it there in the middle and then just walk around the top of your deck, or even just jump in the water. It's not actually possible within game. And I think that this is a huge miss. There's definitely a lot of opportunity to add extra gameplay features whilst also being able to do this. I often think about Assassin's Creed Black Flag, where you would just go and leave and just walk off, maybe even jump into the ocean and swim about a bit. It wasn't anything too crazy, and if you did want to go deep in the ocean, you would of course need to go and use your bell, and those were only in set areas within the map. But at least with this, you had freedom. With Skull and Bones, it was first advertised as an Assassin's Creed Black Flag standalone. It would still have all the gameplay mechanics that players enjoyed, but it would be stripped of the Assassin's Creed component, with there being a few more pirate components. And if Skull and Bones did just stick to that original design document, most people would be ecstatic with this game, but they went in a completely different direction, stripped everything good of what was there from Black Flag, tried to rebuild it, but rebuild it in a way which is just not looking good at all. If you had the ability to leave your ship whenever you want, as well as what we talked about earlier, where you can board other players' ships as a pirate and get into conflict, this game would have some really good redeeming qualities. This in itself, with what has currently been shown, would put this into a much better position as a game, but it's lacking. And with this most recent delay, I don't think these changes are going to be implemented. And the fifth and final change for this video, of course, there's so many other ways in which this game could be improved, but we're going to be sticking to this as the last one for this video, is to add a narrative. Now, to add a narrative on top of everything else at this stage, yes, it's going to take a bit of time. And of course, this might go without saying, but you don't need to have a narrative within a game for it to eventually be a good game. You can have a really great game based on just gameplay mechanics itself. But with Ubisoft Skull and Bones, as we've already established, the gameplay mechanics that are currently there are not good. So if they're not going to implement some of the gameplay changes that have been mentioned in this video, then it might be a way to get around this by adding some type of narrative. Now, Ubisoft have said that when they were initially going through Skull and Bones, they first started by planning out the whole lore of the world. This is normal for any type of game, especially at this scale. You will be able to go and do contracts, and when you're going through these contracts, if you do it enough with the exact same person, eventually you're going to start to notice a bit of a story forming. But these are not main story missions. This is just linking into that lore background that we did just mention. But for there to be some way in which players sit there, play, and well, they're not going to enjoy the gameplay mechanics, but actually progress through this game, I think the driving force of this is not going to be the gameplay itself, but would need to be a narrative. Now, of course, all of this really is just a video that I put together just because I like the idea of thinking of how to improve different types of games if there is a way. And with Skull and Bones, of course, there are loads of different ways. So let me know in the comment section down below. I've listed out a few of the things which I've seen players talking about, as well as I actually agree with that these would make Skull and Bones better, but also let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below of what you would like to see that would actually lead to Skull and Bones being successful. It can be a few slight changes with gameplay mechanics, or it could be a completely scrap and a complete redo of the game. Let me know in the comment section down below. But anyway guys, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. But for now, I'm going. So see ya.